Hey, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom. This is Naaman with the DC Camp. Ranch of Great Millstone, back for another video. But first and foremost, call all Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kahakadash. And once again, double honors go out to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Salutations also go out to the fellow Akim that are out there on the highways and byways, and also who post numerous videos on the daily to further push out the truth across four corners of the earth. Alright, while still trying to wake up the remaining hopefully elect, because time grows short. Alright. Wow. This is just going to be a little, you know, another we told you so. For those of you that don't remember, Trump, I believe it was his first term, at some point, threatened to do this. He just signed, as it says here, Trump signs an executive order to make it easier to remove homeless people from the streets. Because here in the district in D.C., some years ago, for decades, there was an institution here called St. Elizabeth's. All right, and that was the mental institution. All right, it's where John Hinckley went, the one who tried to assassinate Ronald Reagan. That's where he was for many, many years. But all of a sudden, some years ago, they just shut down, and all of those people were released. I guess they were deemed to be non-violent or whatever have you. Those people, along with those that were have some, drug addiction, and others, were just, let loose. And you would see them downtown. That was, not good for the image. These little tent cities, whatever have you. And then within the last 2 years, the mayor here, Mrs. Bowser, made a push to try to clean up things. And she definitely got busy when Trump got back in office, because he threatened to take over, and he's still threatening to take over D.C. and New York City, because what he, perceives, he and his cronies. But in any case, in part, yeah, I do agree. But let's get to the article, because I found something interesting. It says, fulfilling a campaign promise, Trump has signed an executive order that seeks to overhaul the way the U.S. manages homelessness. The order signed Thursday calls for changes to make it easier for states and cities to remove outdoor encampments and get people into mental health or addiction treatment. See, it's not without cause, all right, because a lot of totally ridiculous bullshit, all right, has been going on at the hands of, certain population that's mentioned here, and certain elected officials, usually of the Democratic persuasion, have allowed shit to fester. And this is by design, all right? You notice, you see, you have the Democrats and Republicans, and we always stress that they're playing this game with you, per Revelation 13 and 11, all right? They speak out of both sides of their mouth, all right? And our people, for some reason, just got stuck on that Democratic plantation, all right? And now they're finding out, much too late, I might add, that it don't matter, all right? The Democrats are worse than the Republicans, You forget, and I hate to use this as an example, but the scriptures say it first, but I'm just going to bring it out as to how old people might be familiar with it. Malcolm X's speech about the fox and the wolf, right? Well, the fox represents what? The Democrats, all right? That's how they deal with Jake. They get close to you, rub elbows with you, whatever have you, they stab you in the back. Whereas the wolf, Republicans, they let you know straight up, we don't like you. But for some reason, this election cycle, A lot of Jakes fell for, because they got so tired of the Democrats and their BS. And, I guess they figured, well, I know now that they never intended to do anything for us. And we, as a people, were their base. So they made it a point to do, I don't want to get, that's a whole nother video, but they made it a point to do, and this was on purpose, slaps in the face, kicks in the nuts, however you want to put it. They made it a point to do everything for everybody else except for us, their base. See, that's why we always stress here at Great Millstone, we need salvation. Salvation is not at the hands of the so-called white man. All right? The nation of Edom. These are the ones that are responsible for all this shit. All right? They are the sword. They are the tool. Let's get that real quick. Of the Most High. All right? To punish us, as it says in Psalms. What was King David talking about? This is, in fact, let's go up to the top. It says, in the shadow of your wings. These are prayers. King David was also a prophet. People tend to forget. All right? It says, let's go up a little bit further. Let's start at 8. It says, keep me as the apple of the eye, hide me under the shadow of thy wings. Who is King David appealing to here for protection? All right, it says, from the wicked that oppress me, from my deadly enemies who compass me about. They are enclosed in their own fat. With their mouth they speak proudly. It's telling you twice here, which the scriptures often do when it's trying to stress something, what it's talking about. These people are so proud, our enemies. They just thought, well, we got them where we want them. Psalms 83, right? The traps we set, they ain't never coming back. And everybody was Confederate as Psalms 83. They join in and say, yeah, we're going to make sure these people never rise again. All right? But did it work? No. Because as the prophecies dictate, we were going to wake up. All right? Verse 11. They have now compassed us in our steps. They have set their eyes bowing down to the earth. Like as a lion that is greedy of his prey, and as it were a young lion lurking in secret places. See, no matter how you think, all right? See, Jake, we are that prey here. All right? We are that prey. All right? Isaiah 42 and 22. We're all in holes. And again, it's another one of those scriptures that tell you twice over what it's talking about. Holes or prisons. Those people pretending to be the Israelites, the Jews, they're not going through this. See, those prophecies again, all right, if you're paying attention, all right, the curses, all that tell you who's who, these things that will be happening to these people, all right, and they do not describe or fit them folks over there now. All right, it says, like as a lion that is greedy of his prey, he just can't get enough of. We're gonna stick it to these the real Israelites. All right, it says, as it were a young lion lurking in secret place. Arise, O Most High. His name is Yahweh. That's Lord in all caps. Disappoint him, cast him down, deliver my soul from the wicked, not a wicked, the wicked, which is thy sword. Which is thy sword. Let's go into that sword. Strong's H 2719. All right. A cutting instrument, as a knife, sword, or other sharp implement. Axe, dagger, knife, mattock. Oh, that mattock. I haven't seen that in a long time. It's like think of a pickaxe, sword, or what does it say at the end? Tool. He is a tool of the Most High. All right. That was set up to punish us. And he has an end. He doesn't think that he has an end, but he does. What does he like doing with his tools? All right. He'll set Jake up for a while. And then usually when he brings him down, it's public. It's humiliation. You've seen. You've seen it. The latest one was Diddy, right? That's what he does when he's tired of his tools. He loves breaking his tools and breaking them publicly. All right. So what do you think the Most High is going to do to him? Aha. There you go. All right. Back to the article. It says the order signed Thursday calls for changes to make it easier for states and cities to remove outdoor encampments and get people into mental health or addiction treatment. That includes involuntary civil commitment. So they can just snatch you up. No, you ain't right. Put your ass in, for those who are at risk to themselves or others. Now, what constitutes that? Think of what happened to Daniel Penny, subway up there in New York. He didn't lay a hand on anybody, but he was perceived as a threat. So this could be subjective, which is really dangerous because, again, it lies in the eyes of whomever decides to take action. All right. It says endemic vagrancy, disorderly behavior. There we go. Disorderly, how it's perceived, disorderly behavior, sudden confrontations. This sounds like a setup, doesn't it? The way it's worded. Sudden confrontations and violent attacks have made our cities unsafe, the order states. Critics decry the shift, toward pushing people into treatment. You got to understand, all this has been thought out, planned. All right. It says the White House action also seeks to shift federal funding away from long-time policies that sought to get homeless people into housing first and then offer treatment. Let me tell you something. You got to understand what they're not describing to you. They're saying, well, we've set up all these facilities, but in the past, people have decided, all right, well, we don't want to go through that. You leave out the fact that a lot of that shit is corruption. All right, these people that are set up, they're thieves, and they're abusive to these people. There's a reason that a lot of them don't like to frequent these facilities, establishments, whatever. All right, and that's what they're not telling you. All right. Let's see. Instead, it calls for prioritizing money for programs that require sobriety and treatment, and for cities that enforce homeless camping bans. This is shaping up to be something that could be really bad, from what I'm reading here. It also directs the Departments of Health and Human Services, Housing and Urban Development, and Transportation to assess federal grant programs and prioritize places that actively crack down on illicit drug use, urban camping and loitering, and urban squatting to the maximum extent permitted by law. All right. It also plays into the favor of them folks, because you're not addressing the things. Really, a lot of people, believe it or not, that are going to get swept up in this are not mentally ill or drug addicts. They just can't afford to get off the streets. They couldn't afford to maintain. So they're just caught up in this shit. What about them people? See, a lot of people are getting punished for, let me put it another way. You're not correcting the things that are making the people the way that they are. You're punishing them, all right, for when they fell through, because they couldn't afford to or cope with what was going on. All right, let's see. Critics said the sweeping action, does nothing to solve homelessness and could make it worse. See, that's why I said what I said. This executive order is forcing people to choose between compassionate, data-driven approaches like housing or treating it like a crime to have a mental illness or be homeless. All right, said Jesse Rabinowitz, whatever, and you know who that is. The National Homelessness Law Center. Institutionalizing people with mental illness, including those experiencing homelessness, is not a dignified, safe, or evidence-based way to serve people's needs. Trump's order also calls on the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration to defund addiction programs that include harm reduction. What? This is certain to disrupt frontline healthcare programs that work to reduce overdoses from fentanyl and other street drugs. Oh. So they're pissed. They're still pissed that a lot of they're losing a lot of their people to fentanyl. That's what I'm getting from this. Addiction experts consider harm reduction, including programs that provide clean needles and other paraphernalia, to be an essential part of helping people survive addiction. Trump's order repeats the claim that such programs encourage drug use, an argument disproven by years of research, including by federal scientists at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Thursday's White House action builds on a landmark Supreme Court ruling last year that said cities can punish people for sleeping outside even if they have nowhere else to go. Ain't that some shit? Remember what I said, where it seems that, they're addressing the wrong thing? All right. It comes back to, you're not supporting the people, which will be much cheaper than this shit. But you want to send all that money, and this ties into it, over to a foreign government that, as we know, really runs things here because of them folks. All right. And you're caring nothing about the people here. Yeah, this all ties into that. Yeah. See, it's all coming to a head now. It's collapsing under its own weight. This wicked ass system. He says, since the High Court ruling, well over 100 cities across more than 24 states have passed. See, this is going down into, or coming to this Isaiah 10:1. These unrighteous decrees. All right. Well over 100 cities across more than 24 states have passed or strengthened bans on homeless camping. More now may feel pressure to do so if that makes it easier to get federal funding. And this is something, and it may seem to you all to be way out in left field or whatever, but I'd always suspected. You got to understand, a lot of their workforce, they're rounding up and shipping out of the country, with the illegal migrants. So this could be a means other than those that are already behind bars. Remember, 13th Amendment, to maybe use as another workforce, because a lot of these farms are going to be going under. Because Northern Kingdom is either not showing up because they're on the run, or they've been scooped up. All right. So now what are you going to do? You got all these crops rotting in the field. All right. All that money that's being, and we know that's what it comes down to. All that money laying, still out there. You think they're going to let that stand? Hell no. All right. It says, more now may feel pressure to do so if that makes it easier to get federal funding. The order reflects a conservative backlash to federal policies. For 2 decades, there was bipartisan support for getting people off the streets and into housing first, then offering them mental health or addiction treatment. Supporters say that approach has a proven track record of keeping people off the streets. And they say a massive shortage of affordable housing is a key driver of homelessness, because with all this gentrification, and we know what that's driven by, all right, more and more of them folks are moving from the suburbs back into the city. You're having a reverse exodus, so to speak, of them folks. They left during the 50s and 60s, especially the 60s. But in the 70s, they went to the burbs to get away from Jake. Yeah. All right. Let's see. But there's been a growing conservative backlash to that as homelessness rates have steadily risen to record levels. The annual count of homeless people in the U.S. last year showed more than 770,000 people living in shelters or outside, up 18% from the year before. So what should that tell you? What I mentioned earlier, it's like the campaign slogan for the 92 presidential election. It's the economy, stupid. All right. It says, and they know this. They know this. All right. But these are just some gluttonous, foul individuals. All right. They care for one thing and one thing only: Israel. That's it. This is a huge step. All right. It says David Kurtz with the conservative Cicero Institute, which has been lobbying for many of the items in the order. He contends that the Housing First strategy made homelessness worse by not doing enough for those who need treatment. Trump's order calls for ending support for Housing First policies that don't promote treatment, recovery, and self-sufficiency. Self-sufficiency. My goodness. Here we go. You know, it's just keep going around in circles here. And this place is done. And they're trying to use this as an excuse. And damn, this ties into it, but I didn't feel like going into that right now because I don't have everything before me. But there was another article, and I'm gonna have to do another video on it, where you have a lot of these people, especially Northern Kingdom. This was a series on TV a few days ago, sometime last week, and it showed how a lot of these farms that these Northern Kingdom had worked for, they got people that worked on these farms for 40 years. Well, all of a sudden these people were let go, and they're like, well, what the fuck? Their families and everything. So what they're doing, these slick bastards, they're firing all these long-time, loyal, I might add, workers that they had, and they're going for this, I can't remember the name of the visa, but it's the one that would allow all these Elamites, these East Indians, to come in here. The tech boom and all that. It's something. Oh man, what is that visa called? And that's the way they're going because they have more control over the workers that way. These some wicked, evil, slick bastards, man. Anyway, let's finish this out. This is, God dang it. Sorry about that. Let's see. There we go. All right. Anyway, it says this is really that crucial safety net at the bottom to make sure that homeless people don't continue to fall through the cracks and die on the street. The conservative, quit allowing these drugs in like you have been. All right, it may have gotten out of control recently, but this is shit that you set up initially, especially to hurt Jake, and to a degree, it's backfired on you. All right, it says the Conservative Virginia Project 2025 also called for ending Housing First. Earlier this year, the Trump administration gutted the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness, a small agency that had coordinated homeless policy across the government and had been an advocate for housing first policies. So, yeah, this bastard, all right, and his cronies, they don't give a fuck about the American people. It's Israel. You have let it be known now, and finally the idiots are starting to get it, that it was never about the American people. I mean, he played his base. I'm talking about Trump. I mean, it was masterful. It really was. And he's not, to prove how sad it was, he's not even a career politician. And you assholes fell for it. Wow. I mean, what he did have on his side, I got to say, is, he's a businessman. All right, but let's get that, because we're in this time now that you're going to see a lot more of this. Let's go to that Isaiah 10. All right, it says, "Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that write grievousness which they have prescribed, to turn aside the needy from judgment." We're talking about primarily Jake's, Israelites. "And to take away the right from the poor of my people, that widows may be their prey, and that they may rob the fatherless," because they're cutting a lot of these programs. And you women, oh boy, Isaiah 32. All right, you've been so um, content. All right, and that's what that is going from chapter. Might as well start at verse 5 in that chapter and go on down through 9. All right, because you women have, as it says, have been at ease. All right, you just knew this was going to last forever. You didn't need no man. Okay. All right. Will it make you laugh, make you cry? And that's certainly what's happening now. All right. "And to take away the right from the poor of my people, that widows may be their prey, and that they may rob the fatherless." All right. "And what will ye do in the day of visitation, and in the desolation which shall come from far? To whom will ye flee for help? And where will ye leave your glory?" Something to think about. All right. That's going to be it for this one. Once again, hey, they making them moves. We told you things were going to pick up. All right. Trump signs an executive order, and you notice there's a lot of, since he's been in office, I've never heard more calls for executive orders. My goodness. And this is to help circumvent, all right, the legislative branch. All right. Your Congress. He knows what he's doing. All right. He says, because of course it's so many, but all of this can just be undone with the signature of the next president that comes in. This is not laws per se. All right. And that's why he's doing this. "Trump signs an executive order to make it easier to remove homeless people from streets." Yeah, it's going to get rough out here. All right. So with that, once again, as I say at the end of my videos, I hope whoever views these videos have been edified, as we all do here at Great Blue Stone. That's why we do it. All right. And this is what we do. We filter everything through the scriptures. All right. So you'll know, all right, what time you're really in. All right. As it pertains to these prophecies, this is the thing you have to pay attention to. All right. So with that, until the next video, shalom.